Hello, everyone. This year's Summer Solstice is on Chaos, TNO Chaos, which has just moved into Cancer a couple of weeks ago, and it made a square immediately with Borasisi, another centaur. We are going to look at both of them. But I think if we consider this as a sign of the times, nothing could be closer to the truth. If you look around, what you see is some sort of programmed chaos. Exactly, there are three basic, and now with the war, there's a fourth global narrative for the last 7 years, 8 years. Virus, migration, climate change, and war. And what's happening at the moment is that every time you get tired, the whole world or Europe or the United States, we the people, get tired of one of the narratives, they immediately do away with it for a while and then take out another one and then start pushing the new narrative on us, the new old narrative on us. And what's happening, of course, they're trying to push buttons on us. Half the population, what happened during the COVID is exactly happening with these other three narratives. Half the population is really angry, mad. Think back when you couldn't travel, you couldn't go out, you couldn't go and buy new stuff. You were restricted, you had to wear the stupid mask, they forced the vaccines on you that you didn't want. But what happened to my body, my choice, right? What happened to that? All of a sudden, we didn't have a choice. If you wanted to travel, if you wanted to work, if you wanted to go into a shop or a gym, you had to be vaccinated. It was mandatory. It's ridiculous. And what happened? We allowed, of course, what else, right? So, and in the meanwhile, we were mad. So that was one half of the population. And the other half of the population was scared. And if you consider these two emotions, anger and fear are the lowest vibrations, really the lowest. And if they push you on your lowest, they can do whatever they want to you. And that is why they are constantly swapping these narratives. Whatever tires out or seems to get bored about it, then they push the other one and the whole show starts all over. So that is a very significant sign, I think, that the summer solstice is on TNO Chaos. Let's take a look at the chart for London. And as you see, for London, it is 1558 on June 21st. And first, please pay attention to the sun's declination. If you use solar fire, like I, most of the time, I use Astrokarma, which is a Hungarian karmic astrology software. And I also use, of course, solar fire, which is a professional software. You will see that anything on extreme declination, out of bounds, will have under the label Decl, you will see it magenta. And this is 23 degrees 26, because this is the northernmost position of the sun, which it reaches during the solstice. And I work with the out-of-bounds planets. They are very, very important in karmic astrology. They show karmic wounds related to extreme pain. And of course, the sun cannot move over the ecliptic because the sun is defining the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the sun's path. But on the solstices, it is at its extreme position. And by that, it is able to kind of cross over into the darkness, into the void, into the dark, unknown, uncharted backwaters of the universe, and actually get some knowledge or peek into it and take some light there and get some knowledge. Now let's take a look at the London chart. Scorpio is rising, so this particular chart will be valid for a full year. So whatever we see here could be valid for a full year. First of all, not just Scorpio, of course, is rising, but the South Node is there as well, which means that we should learn about our past, our knowledge that is buried in us that we brought in for this incarnation. And the descendant has the North Node, meaning that we need to have some sort of alliance. We should make some alliance in order to fulfill our chosen destiny. And Saturn turned retrograde a couple of days ago, 2 days ago maybe, and it will reach the beginning of Pisces, but it won't go back into Aquarius. So that's one thing. The Austria, Mars, Pallas Athena triple conjunction is again still quite tight there. Mars is now leaving the Black Moon, and it's nearing Pallas Athena, and as Mars is faster than Pallas Athena, of course, because their orbital period is just Mars's is half than Pallas Athena's, it will reach an exact conjunction soon. If you look at the midheaven, you will see that the two feminine planets, Venus and the Moon, are right at the midpoints. But at the midheaven's midpoint. So the midheaven is at the Moon Venus midpoint. So that's quite fascinating. Two feminine are in the future. Yes, the future is ours. There's also a Sun Juno very tight conjunction, but it's separating. Interesting enough, because Juno is still in at the end of Gemini. And there is an interesting midpoint structure at the middle of which is Astraea, the karma breaker. And the two sides are Uranus and Sedna. Sedna is creation through dissection. Uranus is change. So if you want to make if you want to break old embedded karma, if you want to change your destiny, you need to dissect your own life, find non-working segments and change them. This is what it means. And Vesta, the focusing principle, helps you identify the whole process. That's practically it. I hope I didn't leave out anything. So let's take a look at the energetic map and the hemisphere emphasis. In karmic astrology, we pay a lot of attention to what is below the horizon, what is above the horizon, what is left and right. When you have planets below the horizon, you see things clearly inside you, but it's an instinctual knowledge. If you have things above the horizon, you need to go out to understand things. Now we need to go out. There are twice as many ruling planets above the horizon than below, so we will find answers out there. And the same double energy is on the right-hand side, which means the Western side, which is the spouses or the enemy's side, and only 4 planets on our side. So we would like to pull the reins, but we need the help of others. And if you take a look at the personal planets, everything is above the horizon. So yes, we need to go out to find some answers. And if you take a look at the modalities, we have 3 cardinals, 6.5 fixed and 3 mutable. So it's the fixed energy that is really deeply there. Yes, we can initiate things. Yes, we can change things, but fixing, going in there, trying to hold on to what we have and trying to pay attention to the things that are really important for us and our loved ones will prevail, will govern our movements in the upcoming months. When you look at the energy pattern of feminine and masculine signs, there are about 1.5 times more feminine than masculine, 4 fire, 1 air, 4.5 water, and 3 earth. And fire, of course, is inspiration. Air is logic. So when you have too much fire and too little air, that doesn't mean that you're too smart. So yes, you have premonitions, you have ideas, but thought processes are not very strong. Luckily, the only air planet is Mercury, so we do have some logical energy there. There's 4.5 water and only 3 earth. That's a tsunami. So we will be carried away by our emotions in the upcoming months. And there will be some solid ground, but not too much. The signature is Scorpio, just like the rising, and there's a new moon. So that's important because that signifies something really new up and coming into being. Okay. let's take a look at this very complex and in the meanwhile dissociate and in the meanwhile non-closing planetary picture. And the reason it is non-closing is because the orbs are quite wide. This is happening many times if you simply look at the chart, and yes, even if you have tight orbs, the aspects will be there, but for configurations, you need to have aspects within 2 degrees exactness. And when you have the angles as well, which are non-radiating, you need to have 1.5 degrees in order to really have it close. And it's dissociated, you will see, because a lot of the items are still at the end of the signs, and some are, of course, at the very, very beginning of the signs. I'm not going to talk about this planetary picture because I dissected it for you. So we are going to look at it separately. And here it is. These are the ones that are really, really at the very end or the very beginning of the signs. And again, that there are so many still in the last degrees of one sign and so many at the 0 degrees of the next sign. This signifies the fact that we are at a transitory age. One age, one era, one system is closing and another one is coming in. And of course, the question always is, what sort of system is coming in? Well, on the one hand, what the powers that be are pushing on us, and on the other hand, what we choose, what we are going to make, what we, the people, are allowing them to make. If you are a fan of Klaus Schwab, sorry, why am I? It was a Freudian slip. Of course, your King Charles is a great fan of Schwab, and actually he was a speaker at the last economic forum. So maybe that was a Freudian slip. I don't know. But anyhow, so if you want this type of world order, new world order, well, we are going to be in deep shit. But if we are willing to create a more humanistic, more human-centered new world, then we might as well have something really nice coming in. The problem is that the progressives, and among them the Greens, hate mankind. They would love to have a planet without people, only, and maybe even without animals, just plants everywhere. And my bad news, the bad news is it's not going to happen. There are way too many people, way too diverse. You won't be able to amass us into one single entity or identity. It's not going to happen. People are diverse, and it's going to remain like this. Anyhow, let's take a look at first what is at the end of the signs, because those are anaretic, and anaretic in karmic astrology means that they got stuck in their manifestation, either the archetype itself or how we work with those archetypes. Well, Juno is one of them. And Juno, of course, is the wife archetype, the first lady, but also contracts, covenants, liaisons, and signing contracts has been stuck. If you look at what's happening at the front in the Ukrainian war, everything got stuck. The whole thing is ridiculous. It's so painful. It's so wicked. It's so absurd that a nation is being slaughtered because Ukrainian soldiers are slaughtered in those wars, and Zelensky is pushing the whole thing into the armors of the West, and the West is trying to make us believe that yes, they can win. No, they can't. There were tons of arms sent to them, tons of money poured into them. The problem is they don't know how to work with these weapons. The weapons are diverse. There's no manpower for them, and the Russians are very systematic. Please look at the map and look at history. Russia has never lost a war, never. It's way too big. It has brilliant resources. And I'm not for Russia. Don't get me wrong. Okay, we were occupied by Russians for 45 years, so I'm not by any means for them. But I'm not for the Ukrainians as well, because it's at our borders, and I hate the whole thing. I think this should stop. And those who think that this should go on, well, why don't you go to the war, and why don't you fight for it instead of sitting in your armchair and giving advice? Anyhow, so that's Juno, which is energetic, and then Pluto is energetic as well, but it's retrograde, so it just went back to Capricorn, and Pluto in Capricorn tried to get rid of or transform old, outdated, rigid power structures. In the meanwhile, this wasn't very, very successful, to say the least, but in the meanwhile, what also got transformed was our belief in our most basic and most sacred, I should say, ideas, natural laws, understanding, knowledge. We say things that weren't there 10 years ago. We question things that we have known for centuries. This is ridiculous. And that's what's happening with Pluto in Aquarius. Now it's back in Capricorn, trying to do some more transformation. We will see. But again, Pluto, the transformer, is stuck and it's retrograde. So it's revisiting things that it hasn't succeeded to transform in these past couple of years, almost 20 years. And also Vesta, which is in Taurus, at the very end of Taurus. Vesta is a focusing principle, and it simply means that we should focus on whatever we do. At the moment, it's on Sedna, which just went into Gemini, and we should focus on creating through getting rid of what is non-working and trying to create something new that is reworkable. If we look at the economic system, what we call capitalism in this type of form, which is like really, really robbing the earth from its resources and robbing the people from their money, and this constant hype of progress, that should end. If you take a look at history, again, you can learn a lot from history if you pay attention. If you look at history, there were huge empires that existed for a couple of thousand years. There was no progress. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. Everything remained the same, but so there was no growth. Okay, this whole fetish of growth is what pushes us into this whole horrible escalation of more spending, more profit, and whatever. So, I love cars. I really love cars, and I always giggle whenever I sit in a car that is fast enough and I'm driving. But you know what? I don't think I would need two cars. I'm very happy with the one that I have, that I'm driving. I'm very grateful that I have a car, and I wish to hang on to it unless the idiots, the new age idiots, want us to get rid of them altogether. So you could actually adopt another type of outlook on life. Really concentrate on what you need and what makes you happy, and you don't need to amass more than you really can use, because there's no way you can drive two cars at the same time. Think about that. Anyhow, so that's just a thought. And then, of course, you have things at 0 degrees. For instance, the ascendant for London, and which means that you will have a dissociate T-square with Pluto. We are going to look at it in a minute. Ceres just moved into Libra. If you saw my previous couple of videos, I talked to you about the grand trine between Pluto, Sedna, and Ceres. It was dissociate because there was one moment when it wasn't. Actually, it was an Earth trine. Ceres was still in Virgo. Pluto went already back into Capricorn, and Sedna was still in Taurus, but it was a very, very short period, because then Sedna moved into Gemini, and now Ceres just moved into Libra as well. So now it's Pluto who is disrupting the energy pattern. And then, of course, Sedna is in over there as well. Now, if you take a look at this, and you see in karmic astrology, we always pay attention to the energy patterns, because originally it was the energy patterns that created the aspects and not the math, so to speak. You have, when you have a trine has to be in the same element. A square has to be in the same modality, and so on. And so whenever we have a really tight aspect or configuration where you don't have the energy properly there, then it is dissociate and it works in a different way. So if we look at the dissociate T-square with Pluto, well, the Pluto ascendant square with the nodes. I didn't put the nodes in because they're slightly off. Or you will see why. We will look at them in another chart. So if you look at it, it's the ascendant is in Scorpio and Pluto is in Capricorn. So this is a square that is really a sextile. And with the North Node in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn, this is a square that is really a trine. So all of a sudden, the tension of the square is not dissolved completely, but it is kind of mellowed by the positive energies. We also have a karmic platform, the ascendant descendant, and the top of the platform is Ceres, the nurturing principle, and the Vesta Sedna conjunction. So that's the trine, that's where you step there on, and it means that you, in order to keep your home, your nation, your nurturing principle, you need to focus on what is not working and rearranging stuff in a proper way. And the inside of this platform are two quincunxes, and the sides where you step on to the top of the platform are also two semi-sextiles. So actually you have 4 karmic aspects in this platform. And the platform itself is not dissociate. The energies are right. So there are 30 degrees and 150 degrees. But you do have a dissociate grand trine because, as I explained, Pluto went back into Capricorn, but Sedna and Ceres are in Libra, but at the same time, Vesta is still in Taurus. So the Pluto-Vesta trine is an earth trine. So it's quite funny. It's earth and air mixed. And there's a Yod as well with the Sun-Juno conjunction on the one hand. No, that's not it, sorry. That was in the Hungarian version. I apologize. I didn't take it out. Anyhow, because for Hungary, you had a different midheaven, but I did a 3-day workshop in a row. On Friday, we did houses, and on Saturday and Sunday, we had a 2-day workshop on Babylonian visual astrology, which is one of my favorite topics. I studied with Bernadette Brady, and I really highly honor her. And it's a very difficult topic, so I'm pretty tired. I apologize. And you have 2 engines as well, which you can't have what sort of engines because the points are dissociate. Okay. Here you have, here you have the transcendental objects. In this chart, on the ascendant, you have Amenhotep, which is a pharaoh. So you have the Egyptian mythology there. So has Ceres, which has Osiris, and which is the lord of the underworld in Egyptian mythology, and Demeter, which is funny because Ceres and Demeter are the same goddesses. Demeter is the Greek one, Ceres is the Roman one, and the supergalactic center, which means nothing is ever enough. And on the sun, you have quite a few. You have Aten, the sun disk in Egyptian mythology, and of course it was worshipped by Akhenaten, who used to be Amenhotep IV, but he turned himself into Akhenaten because he did away with all the old gods and started to worship the sun disk. And the reason is very funny because for a couple of thousand years, the sun was kind of a little bit obscured. And all of a sudden, well, if you take a look at how the Egyptians personify the sun, it was always a red disk, until the times of Amenhotep, Akhenaten, when all of a sudden you had a radiating sun. Of course, he was worshipping it. If you want to understand what is happening in the world, pay attention to symbols, especially old symbols, because they tell you the truth. Okay, you have also Artemis, which is the moon god. You also have Atlantis. We should go back to understand what happened to us, to mankind in Atlantis, because we are at the verge of making some really serious mistakes. And if we want to avoid it, we need to pay attention. That's what it says. Asteria, which is an archetype of using astrology, tarot, dreams, premonitions, understanding through esoteric tools what is happening in the world. That's what we need to do. And also with the Sun Juno, we need to find alliances. We need to form new alliances, new contracts. That's what will happen in the next year. And there are two centaurs as well. I should again mention that asteroids are purple, centaurs are blue, centaurs and TNOs are blue, and fixed stars are red. Fixed stars and galactic points are red. Anyhow, so there are two TNOs, one centaur and one TNO. Asborus, who is a seer and oracle, and they never believe him and actually disregard him whenever he is right. And once in a blue moon, he makes a mistake and then he is being ridiculed. That is happening in the world. If you want to avoid being ridiculed, you need to shut up. That's the best way. But at the same time, you know what you know, and you're trying to push it, in your among your friends or among your co-workers. But if these people are woke, or if these people are just reading or listening to mainstream media, they won't believe you. That's the problem. So that's exactly what's happening in the outside world. And then chaos, as I said, the whole thing is on chaos. The whole solstice, sun is on tightly conjunct chaos, which simply means that, yes, we are entering into programmed chaos. Well, actually, for the next year. So those four narratives will again come up and they will just exchange it. They may find another virus for us to suffer through it, to have another lockdown. You will see. I suspect that by September, October, November, they will come out with another virus. I think I have it in English as well. I did make some videos on these so-called global narratives. I think the title is Global Narratives, in which I'm trying to show you throughout the whole year how these narratives are going to come forward in certain periods of time. I don't really remember what I said, but you can actually check it up. And then there is also actually two fixed star, but I couldn't put it in the chart wheel. But Betelgeuse and Menkalian. Betelgeuse is Alpha Orion, which is one of the most beautiful and most beneficial fixed stars, unlimited success. And Menkalian, which signifies the charioteer who has a lame leg and is unable to walk, but that's why he uses the chariot. And it's usually the healing word for a wounded leg. And that is what's happening at the moment in the Ukraine. There are a lot of young people who are terribly wounded or half mutilated, and that's what's happening. Okay, on Pluto you still have Orius, and Orius is of course the mitigated punishment. And on Sedna Vesta, you have Hel, Darius Cerberus. Hel is the underworld goddess of the North mythology. Darius, of course, is a ton of money, the super rich, the absolutely. I just heard that Biden's tweeted that it's high time the rich paid fair share, something like that. Good luck, okay? Because those high payers are your sponsors. So if you're going to raise taxes for them, think again. Anyhow, and then Cerberus, of course, is the keeper of the gate of the underworld. And then Mors Somnus was very prominent. It's a TNO. It was very, very prominent during the during the pandemic. That's why I think they're going to concoct another version of the virus, or the same virus, or another variant, and whatever. You will see. They're going to happen. It's maybe not going to happen during the summer, but by fall, they will do something. And then, of course, Sedna is on the Pleiades, but it will be on the Pleiades for another probably 2 years, a year for sure. Okay, and there's also Borasisi on the vernal equinox point at 0 degrees Aries. Maybe 2 weeks ago, I made a video on this, that there's a Borasisi chaos square. And of course, we knew that the solstice sun is going to come up to this particular point. And Borasisi is the tyrant. It's one of the main protagonists of a religion called Bokononism in Kurt Vonnegut's Cradle story, novel. And the story is telling us that this god is really a tyrant who doesn't allow certain things and doesn't accept his children. He's like a Uranus type of tyrant who's throwing out his children, whoever he doesn't like. And in comic astrology, Borasisi signifies the tyrant who is not actually paying attention to what you are, who you are, what your needs are, what it's his way or the highway. Now, that's exactly how the European leaders of the European Union are trying to behave now. So they are verdicting things, and they are pushing us towards a totally different way of living. And I think it's going to amplify in the next years. And so what new is Borasisi making with this complex planetary picture? It creates an exact cardinal square. Borasisi opposite Ceres is exactly what's happening. They're trying to tell us who to live with, what to live. They are trying to make this migrant distribution system where you as a nation state would not be able to tell who you want to live with. They're going to push total foreign people to us, and we need to pay for them. It's ridiculous. I mean, if I have a nation, think about it. You have a house, or you rent a house or rent a flat. And then the council would say, okay, from now on, you need to take in 3 more people. And when you say, well, but I don't have the room, but make some room and pay for them and pay for their needs. Think about that. This is exactly happening on a larger scale. They're trying to do away with nation states by pushing a different population upon them, and then hoping that in 20 years they're going to mix, and then they are going to change. Now look at what's happening in Germany or Sweden, how very successful this is. Okay, so that's what it is, Borasisi or Ceres opposition. And of course, this is a Polaroid chart. This is a snapshot chart. So Ceres will be moving out of Ob from the opposition of Borasisi in like maybe 10 days or two weeks for sure. So, but at the exact moment of time, this is exactly what it is showing. And at the apex of this chart is the Sun-Juno conjunction. And what you could do on a personal level is find your partner, find the likewise people who think the same way. And at the apex is the sun, the solstice sun, which represents us in the next year. And we need to pay attention to our home, Ceres, and to the tyrants that are trying to push things on us. And there's also this associate harmony triangle, Pluto, Sedna, Vesta, and Borasisi. And the reason it is dissociate is because Pluto went back to Capricorn. So actually, the Borasisi Pluto sextile is like a square, and the Borasisi Sedna is like a semi-sextile. And there are some angel wings as well. That's the benefit of having some angel wings. And if we move forward from 29 to 0 degrees and move to the second, third degree of the placements, what we find is a finger of fate involving the South Node, Dark Moon Lilith, which is the acceptance of the curse, and trans-Pluto. And this yod tells you to make a stand, to do what's right, even if other people are cursing you, to understand what is natural. There's one question I usually ask. Is this natural? Is this happening in the natural world? Or is it something totally horribly man-made? Is it plastic, which is non-degradable and it's really poisoning us? Or is it something that is blending into nature and the natural world? That's what you need to ask. And if you find things and encounter things that are non-natural, just reject them, because they're not going to take you anywhere, even if they curse you. So that's at the apex. And of course, the trans-Pluto means, okay, go high up and channel whatever you can from up there. And the south node means dig down there, dig deep down into your roots, into your karmic understanding, and bring in old knowledge that will help you survive in the next year. And of course, the North Node is also making a trine to trans-Pluto. It's separating already because the North Node will soon move into Aries. The nodal axis will change. We do have some transcendental objects as well. On the South Node, you have Iris, which is the rainbow, which is Hera's or Juno's personal messenger. So again, we can get divine messages from up there. Electra, who is a very strong figure in the Minotaur story of Crete, she actually makes her brother, her little brother, to kill their mother. So it's a very strong, very determined, and very nasty feminine on the one hand, but also very strong on the other hand. And Xerxes, who was a general, a very victorious general until he got defeated. On trans-Pluto, we have Sisyphus and Galahad. Galahad, of course, is the knight in shining armor, and Sisyphus, okay, this probably there must be a Y somewhere. I think the second one. Okay, I made a mistake spelling, whatever. Sisyphus is pushed into the underworld, and he needs to take this huge rock up to the top of the one of the mountains of the underworld, and of course it always comes back, and then he needs to roll it back again, and it usually describes very hard and futile work. And on trans-Pluto, yes, to uncover the truth, we have to do some sometimes hard, sometimes futile work. It still is necessary, but we can't avoid it. We need to fight, just like Galahad fought for the table of the round table, the Knights of the Round Table. And on dark moon, Lilith, you have Epimetheus, Archimedes, Amor, and Mambe. Mambe, of course, is the king of the waters in the Silmarillion in Tolkien's work. He is the king of the waters who is ruling also the air, the birds, and imagination. And with imagination, you can actually do whatever you want. Amor, of course, is the little love angel that is pushing some arrows on you, and then you fall in love and become an idiot. And Epimetheus and Archimedes are two important figures here. Archimedes is an inventor, so someone who is inventing and realizing something, Eureka, of course. And then Epimetheus is someone who is able to realize what happened afterwards, hindsight, sitting down, taking a look at facts and realizing what was going on. So those are the archetypes there, and this chart will remain in effect for another year. So until the next solstice, of course, we will have another chart for the equinox, the full equinox, and we also will have a new chart for the new year for the vernal equinox. But at the same time, actually we should use this solstice chart as a projection for the future and make the best of it. This is what I wish you. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.